Good evening. This is the Suburban Sentinel, and welcome to episode number 7 in our series entitled The Big Shift, where we are examining the social, political, and economic changes our society is likely to face in the near future. And tonight I'd like to talk about the Roman Empire, specifically the fall of the Roman Empire, which essentially occurred in the first 2 centuries of the last millennia. And the question is, what, if anything, can we learn from the demise of the Roman Empire? At that time, the Roman Empire was a relatively mature society that had for many years been focused on war and territorial conquest. The Roman Empire had expanded greatly over the preceding centuries, and the Romans had absorbed much of the wealth, plus a big pool of slaves from conquered territories. Meanwhile, back home, there was a huge gap between the wealth of the elite and the peasants. Unemployment for ordinary Romans was very high because the political elite, the government, and wealthy merchants had a supply of slaves from which to secure their labor rather than using more expensive Roman citizens. The Roman Empire had very few exportable goods up for trade with other countries, and people were essentially hungry and getting angry. So what did the Roman Empire do? For many years, the Roman government pursued a strategy of superficial appeasement of the masses. The government either gave away or heavily subsidized grain and other foodstuffs to the general population, and the government subsidized and often sponsored or put on spectacles for public consumption. Gladiator battles, chariot races, mass executions, this sort of thing for the public's distraction from their problems at home. Juvenal, one of the great political commentators of the time, referred to the empire's political strategy of keeping the masses fed and distracted with spectacles of folly as panem et circenses, or bread and circuses. And for almost 200 years, this strategy worked until Rome was ultimately sacked by the Visigoths. So now, let's take a look at modern America. Since year 2001, America has been in the war business. In addition, unemployment is a huge problem here in the United States and has been for some time. We have ceded much of our manufacturing capability, so we have relatively few consumer goods that are exportable to other nations. Almost 1 in 5 of our citizens are on some type of government subsidy for food. The gap between rich and poor has reached a chasm heretofore unseen since the 19th century, and we now live in an entertainment culture dominated by reality television, spectacles on the news that don't exactly pass on any useful information, and we are distracted by everything except what's really happening to our country and our lives. The Romans were able to sustain the bread and circuses political strategy for just about 200 years and keep the masses in check. However, the Romans, I believe, were smarter than America in at least one aspect. When the Roman Empire invaded and conquered another country or another territory, the Romans plundered all of the wealth. We in the United States, when we invade a country, not only do we spend our blood and treasure conquering the nation, we don't take anything out of the country. In fact, we spend more propping up governments we sponsor. So what does all this mean? Well, first, it means that I don't think America would be able to sustain a bread and circuses political strategy for nearly the length of time that the Romans did, because we don't have the money to spend on the people. The historical parallels between the fall of the Roman Empire and the current situation the United States finds itself in are stunning. Does this mean that the American empire is going to fail? Well, I don't know. I'll let everybody draw their own conclusions. But in my opinion, we can at least expect big changes if history is any indicator. So, thanks for watching. This is the Suburban Sentinel. Please thumbs up and subscribe if you like what you see. Questions and enlightening comments are always welcome. Be safe, everybody.